viewers, welcome to this exclusive interview. My name is Omar Wally, and with me here I have Nenneh Freda Gomez. She is the country director, head of Home of Medical Mission Global Home, as you all know. Recently, she was arrested and the matter was taken to court. There's an issue with the land in the outskirts of the capital, Banjul. She will dwell into that more. But we will not talk much about politics today. It's about the issue that has been ongoing. The government also issued a press release. They said they cancelled the lease and so on. But Nenneh is here with me. Nenneh, thank you so much for granting us this interview.
Oh, hello. Thank you very much, Omar. It's a pleasure. I thank you for taking the time to talk to me on this burning issue that has been lingering for so long. Hello to all the viewers. Thanks for following. Thanks for staying with me. Thanks for the solidarity. Thanks for the support. I appreciate all of you. But I am aware, I know, I am confident that you all are doing this not because of Nenneh, but the love for country and trying to make sure the rule of law is upheld, trying to make sure we protect the sanctity of our courts, and trying to make sure we nurture and really guard our progressing young democracy that we all fought for so hard to achieve. So thank you once again, Omar.
Thank you, Nenneh. So let's get into this thing. I just want us to contextualize this because most people just seen the recent incident, but they don't know the background. We know the Home of Medical Mission has been in the country since the late 90s. You know, they have been supporting people and so on. But just a brief background so that for people to have an understanding.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll be happy to go back to it because, like I said, this has been a long, lingering issue, back and forth, and until where we are today. And this is the thing. You have a group, a medical mission that it is in America. The mission is in America that does philanthropic work. But their philanthropic work, most of it is in regards to the health field. And what it does is it's all charity. They go to developing countries, and when they go to these countries, they establish health facilities and mobile clinics in instances that they don't have structures in countries. So, and Gambia is not the only one. So they started coming to the Gambia since around 2000 and then to 2001, 2002 and years after. So, and what they've been doing is mobile clinic. And when they come with different specialty areas. Like every mission, they come with maybe people that do cataract surgeries, people that do major surgeries, people that do dental work, people that do general medicine. Different specialty areas. I'm not a doctor or in the medical field, but my interaction with them honestly has really taught me a lot. I became more au fait with health issues and prevention and intervention and all that. So they started coming to the Gambia, and they've performed these services, these missions in different parts of the country. Now, at the early part that they started coming, they've interacted with the people of Bijilo. And the then alkali of Bijilo, that's where they used to use his house as the base. That's where they see people. So every time they come in, the alkali will send word around that this team is coming, the team is coming, and so people will come and register and then meet them when they're there. So they've been coming many times. Then the people themselves we're advocating for them to have a permanent structure, to be resident in the country, so that it will not be a 3 months off, 3 months on kind of back and forth. So in that collaboration talks, consultative talks, then you have the people who were also scouting for a place because they were interested because this is what they do. And they have permanent places in other West African, East African countries and beyond. So this particular place in question, in dispute, well, it's not in dispute anymore because the courts has decided. So I take that back because we believe the court is the supreme arbiter of the rule of law. And when the court speaks, and that's the final, unless, set aside or overturned. So this particular place was identified, and this place was a farmland for a lady, an old lady called Masire Fall, right? May her soul rest in peace. So this place was identified, and the Alcalo and approved it, and whatever all the necessary processes were done. The government of the Gambia was approached, KMC, they did the visibility study on the organization and of course on the place. And they also issued a letter to say we okay this project. Then the government of the Gambia through the Lands Ministry, Directorate of Lands, also did the necessary checks and balances and processes. And a lease was issued, right? So when the lease was issued, the organization was still continuing to do missions every year. Then they made a plan of what they wanted to do, and it was a long-term plan that was supposed to be done in phases. And that structure that is currently there was just the first phase, which was built and then operational. Then that's when Yaya Jammeh shut it down. That was in 2010 that Yaya Jammeh shut it down. So the foundation stone laying, Yaya Jammeh was the one that officiated that. The opening of the facility, Yaya Jammeh was the one that did the opening as well. So which means the government of the Gambia was fully in support of the works of this organization from the start to when Yaya Jammeh shut it down. And the reason was nothing else, because they were doing fantastic work. Yes, they were stationed in Bijilo, but they go out to the grassroots, the Quinalas, the Kaur, the Kuntawurs, the Fulabantang, the Bansang, and perform missionary work and provide health care to the people who cannot come to the urban area to seek medical attention, which this current government attested to, right? So in 2010, Yaya Jammeh shut it down. The founders were on the ground doing work. They went out, came into the building, and they were intercepted by NIA officials and invited them to the NIA in Banjul. So when they were invited, and nothing was said to them the first day, the second day, the third day, but of course, because they are Koreans, but US citizens, Americans and their citizens, they intervened the third day. And within 3 days, they were flown out of the country without even giving an opportunity to come back to their residence, because they lived on site as well at the time, to come back to the residence from the NIA straight to the airport and back to the US. So they never came back to the Gambia. That hospital at the time was equipped in the tune of in excess of $1.5 million of equipments, state-of-the-art equipments, and they were, it was operational. So when they were arrested and the US government flew them out of the country, you have the soldiers took over the place and sent out everybody, the workers and all that. The equipments, the belongings and everything else, I cannot tell you what happened to it, because that maybe the then government will be able to tell what happened to those equipment. But we did not see anything, and we did not receive anything back, the organization I mean. So that was, the property was there. And then at some point in time, the Green Boys took over the property during the era of Yaya Jammeh. They were there because it was comfortable. They turned the offices, the hospital into residences, houses, and they were living there. And then it went on until when the citizenry said enough is enough. We want to, liberate ourselves. We want to be Gambians and not all be in exile. We fought together. Everybody contributed their little quota and make sure we stop that dictatorship tendencies of Yaya Jammeh, the arbitrary arrest, the disrespect of the rule of law, and all, it's bots and crows and prawns. But anyway, so in 2017, the first trip of this government to the US, they made a delegation and met the founders of this organization in Virginia, right? And then had a conversation. By then the founder, Dr. Lee, may his soul rest in peace, he is no more, he's late right now, and had a very good conversation. And the first thing they did, they apologized profoundly that they are sorry about the way they were treated in this country. And that was because Yaya Jammeh is a dictator. Yaya Jammeh did not want anything good for this country and did not want anything that was bringing development. I mean, they said all the nice things, right? And apologized and said to the people, we are aware of the good work that you guys were doing in this country. And our people need it, because this is a new government, and this government is all development oriented. It's all about its citizens, and anything that is going to bring value, add value to the livelihood of citizens, we will encourage it, we will welcome it, we will partner, we will collaborate. These were the nice words. even though my guys were adamant, but of course, you have Gambians in their midst who really love Gambia and would love to see these things come back to Gambia, because that was the reason it was here first and foremost. So we started engaging. They put it in writing. So the communication, doors of communication was open. We started communicating back and forth. And then they made their first trip from the US to the Gambia. They came. Even that trip, it was purposely for a meeting that was scheduled with the executive. They came with the mission team to perform work, right, philanthropic work, which they did. Okay, now we started communicating back and forth, having meetings, communication letters back and forth. But at some point in time, early 2019, then the tone started to change. And what they were telling us was like, oh, you know what? I think we need to hold on this project because all Yaya Jammeh properties are subject of the Janneh Commission. Right. And we need to make sure, wait until the Janneh Commission is exhausted, then we'll be able to give this place back to you. That was them talking to us. So we're like, okay, that's fine, since that's the case, you know, and this is a commission established by Act of Parliament, then nobody has the powers to do anything outside of that. Now, but then during our findings and engagements, we realized from the registrar in Banjul that in fact the lease is still in the name of the organization. In fact, this particular property is not a subject of the Janneh Commission, and because Yaya Jammeh had this habit of when he takes your land, he changes the lease, transfers the lease into his name. But this particular property was never transferred. It was still in the name of the organization. We reached out and requested for an audience. And during this meeting, we put it to them that, well, these are our findings. We've conducted a search, and then this is what the search revealed, and the property is still in the name of the organization. They were like, oh, okay, we didn't know. Good news, but then things will be easy. We're like, okay. But then we waited a few months, nothing happened, no communication. We reached out again. But then at that point in time, we realized things were not all right, because we've been engaging since 2017. So we were advised that, okay, how about, since all Yaya Jammeh properties are with the Janneh Commission, and this one, they thought it was with the Janneh Commission and it's not. How about you guys go and ask the courts to officially give you back possession, because it will be easy. It's just a matter of give you legal possession since it is already yours and it's in your name and everything is intact. So that's when we filed a matter in court. But to our surprise, when we filed the matter in court asking for possession, they started contesting it, right? And then they said in court that this was in fact a Yaya Jammeh property. It's not the property of the mission. Okay. Then we had a full-fledged proceedings in court. They brought in witnesses. But then what killed them was the witnesses they brought in. I think it was 2 staff from the Ministry of Land, Director of Land, or whatever. They came and stood in the box and swore and said to the courts that, well, we cannot contest this because legally we have done our search. The property is owned by this organization. And until the time that they were stopped operating in this country, they have fulfilled every thing that is required by them by law according to the lease. So they conceded in court. That was the first court process. They conceded, and then a judgment was entered, right? Prior to even the judgment, they were trying to contest it, they lost. The magistrate ruled against them in that because of what their prayer was, it lacked merit. They could not defend what they were asking for. Then the court proceedings continued until we got a judgment. When we got a judgment, now the sheriff did the needful. The sheriff wrote to all the parties that were involved, because in the suit it was the Attorney General, the Inspector General of Police, because it's his men that were occupying the place illegally, and then the Ministry of Lands, Director of Lands. So all those people were copied, sent the judgment, and the IGP was sent a notice to say, a judgment has been obtained. I am giving you notice that we are going to evict these people. But of course, you know the sheriff, when they effect eviction, they use the services of the police. It's the police that enforce and make eviction. And then the police were very unwilling to help the sheriff to go and evict themselves, because it is like the police evicting the police,
Exactly.
because the anti-crime unit is a branch of the Gambia Police Force. So it was a little bit funny. But then at that time, it was Mbalo and Kinte, IGP and Minister of Interior. But they were reasonable. They engaged and say, okay, this is a court judgment. We cannot go against a court judgment. Give us time to find a place for our men. We move them out. So we had a meeting and our guys are like, it's reasonable because this is the security sector and we're going to need them because we are going to be operating in this country and we need security. So we cannot be enemies with them. So let's be reasonable. So we allowed them time. They gave us time. So they failed on their promises or on their deadline. 7 times they have failed. We kept on reminding them or sending them letters. And the sheriff also has been sending reminders to them to remind them of their promise of leaving. You know, they said, well, there is the old drug squad in Banjul or the old police line, but then lack of resources, they need to renovate, they need to rehabilitate. So many stories. Then there was a change. The interior minister, no, the IGP left, and then the late Alhaji Mahmoud Job came in. May his soul rest in peace. He also was very cooperative because he was also, well, I cannot do anything when there is a court judgment, but allow us time. So we were back and forth. From time to time, the sheriff would remind them. Then we received a letter from the director of lands telling us that they are giving us 21 days to claim the property. If we don't, they were going to repossess it to build presidential villas. The letters are there, right?
Okay.
Okay, now I want you to take that note.
So this was after the police failed 7 times?
Yes.
Okay.
This was after the judgment.
After the judgment, yes.
Yeah, this was after the judgment. So now they wrote us that letter. And then we didn't even get the letter until later. So after the 21 days, we got another letter. They wrote another letter. Let me not say we get. They wrote another letter, which they say, oh, we had written to you, giving you 21 days, and you did not respond. So at this point in time, we are informing you that the government has repossessed the property, right? So when we got this notice, and that even, we got information later that those letters were backdated from within, that they were backdated. They were not written prior. But anyway, the letters, when we got it, the dates, it was after a court judgment. So they just sat in their offices and wrote letters to us, even though they are aware of court and existing judgment, which has not been set aside, right? So now we went back to the courts, to the sheriff, and say, okay, there is a judgment. It has not been enforced, but we are receiving this letter from the director of lands to say they had informed us, we didn't respond. Now they have taken action. The court ruled again and wrote to the Attorney General. By then it was Batambedu, who was the Minister of Justice and AG, and wrote to them and say, there is an existing judgment, and once there is an existing judgment, you cannot go ahead and revoke a lease when there is a judgment, right? When Batambedu got that letter, it was like, oops, my bad. Who did this? So Batambedu instructed that they should put cancel the revocation and put the lease back in its original state. That is the name of the organization, which was done, and it was communicated to us through a letter. They wrote back to us and say, we were instructed to revoke the lease, but now, according to the court's orders, we have canceled that revocation, and then the lease is back intact in your name. Then we went ahead. Then the sheriff started reminding the police force to move out. Then in June of 2021, in June of 2020, the sheriff came with us and gave us possession, official possession, but the anti-crime was still there. When the sheriff gave us possession, our contractor started bringing sand and cement, and we took, it was the anti-crime boss then, who gave us a building, a room there. We fixed it, brought a welder man, fixed it so that the contractors, the workers can keep their stuff in there, and we had the keys with us. But during that back and forth, going in and out, our attention was called by then Yankuba Sonko. He was now the interior minister because Mahmoud Job was no more. So now Yankuba called our attention and said, this is a security unit. And for security reasons, we don't feel comfortable having outsiders, civilians coming in and out, contractors, workers, every day back and forth, different people mingling with our security personnel when we have detainees in there. So can you please allow us to really, and we're like, okay, you had always told us to give you time and you fail. So when they said that to us, by then one of the directors was in town. We said, okay, we will communicate with our head office. I was saying, no, the contractors were going to go ahead because they have continuously failed, because I had no faith that they were going to move. So when we had this meeting, of course, because these are Americans and all that, they also had thought the concerns of the IGP were legitimate. Because it's a security body, we don't want to be held responsible for anything that happened. So they asked me to halt all works and stop all the works and give them more time. So that's when everything was stopped, right? Our cement got dry and all that. The first batch of cement in there got dry and all that. So now, and then finally, the anti-crime unit left, right? They left. When they left, the sheriff notified us, and then they yet again, the second time, accompanied us on the property to give us possession now, since the place is empty. You understand? So now when they came to the property, they gave us possession, I did a press conference. That really raised a lot of, by then I understand later that they had already identified it for OIC, according to them, right? And prior to the sheriff even giving us official position the second time, I have had meetings with the executive and all that, with my people, and we have even had a meeting with President Barrow, who told us in that meeting that his executive advised him that there is an investor that is going to finance a hotel who has given them $87 million. This was the president talking to us. $87 million to build a hotel, use it for the OIC. After the OIC, the person was going to continue to run it as a private hotel. Right? But then he was not all informed about the ownership, the history, and everything else. But he will communicate with his people, have a chat with them, because we did a presentation of what needed to be in that place. The phase 1, the phase 2, the phase 3, phase 4, everything was presented to him. And he was blown away. That day you would see that the way he sounded or whatever, that he was really impressed, and he would have loved something like that to happen in this country. Then when we left the meeting, we decided that let's put it on paper. We wrote a letter to them, referencing the meeting that we had with the president. And they replied after a week or two saying, well, they acknowledge our letter, but then they will get back to us. And that was the last we had from the office of the president in regards to this matter. Right. But now fast forward, going back, the sheriff gave us possession, and then that very day, in the presence of the sheriff, some uniformed men came in and said they were asked to come and ask us to leave the property. The sheriff is like, why? It is their property. I had come in to give them possession according to court order, because the sheriff is not a court. The sheriff only acts on orders and showed them the court order and all that. Then they went away. Later they came back, you understand, with a reinforcement team, a whole pickup of personnel. But the media was there and all, because I had a press conference and everything was caught on camera. So we back and forth. Eventually, they left us. They went away. We conducted our press conference, you know, kept our materials and everything else, and then we went away. Then 2 days after, we were on the property again with the contractors. Police officers came, paramilitary, and said they were asked to come and send us away. I said, okay, this is now a joke. But let me tell you something, we are not going anywhere. Bring us a court order to say we should not be on the property, then we will go away. They were not able to provide it. They said, well, they were given orders from the top that they should not leave us on that property. They should send us away. I said, no, you will not send us away.
So did they tell you, when they say orders, is it the president, the IGP, or the minister of local government?
Well, the irony is they will never mention names.
So they were like
executive orders from the top.
Okay.
You know, it's orders from the top. That's what they will not tell you any particular name. But then in one of our encounters, I think during our second arrest, the police officer, one of them that was there, I think the one who was leading the group that came to arrest us, has been in constant communication with somebody on the phone. Right. And at some point in time, I think there was a mistake. He was just trying to show me that this is not me, Nenneh. Please help me. This is my boss is talking to me. So he called me to the side and actually it was not just because the cameramen were there. People were around. He put the phone on speaker for me to hear who was talking to him, and that was Bojang, Commissioner Bojang, talking to him on the phone. And Commissioner Bojang was telling him that under no accounts that should he fail to get us out of the property, because if not, he was going to get a problem, because IGP has called, and by then it was Ablai Sanyang who's the IGP, because this second arrest was November 19. Ablai Sanyang was the IGP, and he was talking to him that Ablai Sanyang, you know, IG attending president ye diamuye alkana song I bondije, you know, I don't want to even use the word that he used on the telephone, you understand, because this is like live recording, you know, and all that. And then, you know, he put the phone down. He was like, then he turned to me and said, you see what I'm telling you? He's very, very angry with me. Don't make me lose my job. Please, Nenneh, I'm begging, you need to go. I said, I'm not going to go. Lose your job, but I will not go, because I will not take orders from whoever is talking to you. I will take orders from the courts. All right. So they sent a reinforcement team, and then they said they were arresting us. So they arrested us. This is the second arrest. Because the first arrest, they detained us for a whole day. They left us after 8 o'clock at night, and then asked us to report the next day, because then we were released on bail. We agreed to sign the charge sheet, which, by the way, the charge sheet, they changed it 6 times. And that was what has delayed our bail, because they kept on communicating. They will make us sign one charge sheet, and then later on they come back and say, okay, the charge has changed, and they change it to something else. All right. So eventually they settled for a charge, and then charge us, we signed, and we had to get sorties to bail us. Then we came the next day. They made us wait for 5 hours, because the commissioner was waiting for a call from the head office. Then they asked us to go. Then later on, they asked us to come. They were taking us to court. We came to Kairaba. Remember, we were arrested by Senegambia police officers. They took us to Senegambia, then they transferred us to Kairaba. Right? Now they said they were going to take us to court. Now we went to Kairaba for us to go to court. They took us to Kanifing. When we went to Kanifing, the officers there, the prosecution office there, they said the file that was sent to them did not have anything for them to use to prosecute us. And therefore, they cannot take us to court. So they sent us back to Kanifing. When they sent us back to Kanifing, Kanifing said the prosecution unit is in Kanifing to Kairaba. The Kairaba people said the prosecution unit is in Kanifing, and they're the ones to prosecute. So the 2 offices started communicating back and forth. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to. So eventually, Banjul said, send us the file. So they carried us. It was my driving in my car, and with the officers, we carried them with my staff that were arrested. We all drove to Banjul. When we went to Banjul, also, they looked at the file, we talked, and here and there, then they asked us to go. They will contact us, right? The day that they were going to take us to court. Now we went, few days they called us and said we should report back to Kairaba. We went back to Kairaba. Now they said, okay, they were going to send the file to Brusubi, because the property is within the Brusubi police station demarcation or whatever. But later on, they did not even get to send us. They changed their mind, right? And then sent us back to Banjul. And that was the last we had from them. So because of that hanky-panky, you know, merry-go-round, we sued them, because we believe our, you know, the charge was bogus. We believe that we were on the property legally because of a court order. We sued the AG, the IGP, and the police officers that effected the arrest. Okay, we sued, and in November 17, because the arrest was, that was the first arrest, October 11th. The judgment came November 17. That indeed, the arrest was illegal, it was wrong, and our rights were violated. And we were compensated each, the 3 of us, myself and 2 other staff, 100,000 each, and our legal fees also to be refunded. That was the 17th. We went back to the property that day. We went there on the 18th. On the 19th, because the workers needed to resume work on the weekend, I went there in the evening to hand over the keys to them where the materials were. And then that 19th on a Friday, police officers came back and asked us out. I said, no, I was not going out. A reinforcement team came and we were arrested. The second time, that was the 19th. And we were detained from the 19th till the 22nd, 4 days. And taken to court, and the court bailed us, right? So when the court bailed us, and until today, that ruling or judgment has not been determined.
So who do you hold responsible for all this?
First and foremost, the president, because he is aware, and then his executive, who are beneath him, who are really executing all these corrupt practices and disobeying the court orders. They're responsible. Because again, the president is being ill-advised. That's what I can say. But being the president, you don't only listen to one person.
Yeah.
You have a team. And some things you don't need advice. It's black and white. Right. I think the president knows that he is not above the law. I want to believe the president knows that the court supersedes his executive orders. And therefore, if the court speaks, the president ought to obey the courts. But in this case, I want to say he knows, but then they're just doing what they want to do because it is in their favor or it boosts their ego.
Now, they issued a statement and saying that they have revoked the lease and what was contained, it was misleading, that they're saying that the Jammeh issued this land, it was an executive directive. So what is your reaction to this one, the latest statement issued?
Okay, this is not the only statement. Remember, there are 3 statements. Our first arrest, they released a statement. Our second arrest, they released a statement. And this time also yesterday, they released another statement. And if you put all 3 statements, you could see how they contradicted them, continue to contradict themselves, right? And reduce that office, that noble office of the AG to a very, very low ground and low level, which is really not the reason why an attorney general was appointed to protect or be the custodian of the rule of law. But for me, I always say let people go back, because we issued a statement during our second arrest, and we were very detailed in our narration or our side of story in that statement. Let's say the paramount thing that they're saying is this organization does not exist, right? But I want to bring your attention to something. The organization does not exist. Okay, let me give them benefit of the doubt. Yaya Jammeh is a bad person, and Yaya Jammeh used executive order to issue us the land or issue us the lease, and Yaya Jammeh was dealing with us wrongfully and all that. Let me give them the benefit of the doubt and say all that is true. When they came into power, why did they meet this organization and say, we are sorry for what Yaya Jammeh has done to you? 1. 2, why were they communicating to us and addressing us in the name of the organization continuously? That's 2. 3, why when we went to court in the name of the organization, they answered to the suit and contested it, tried to ask the court to set aside or to dismiss our claims. They failed. 3, why after the judgment of the court, why did they send us an invoice asking us to pay rates from 2010 to 2019, when this property was in the possession of the state during this time? Why did they send us invoice and give us bank account details for us to pay the money? And until this time that I'm talking to you, they have not refunded the so-called non-existent organization. They've not refunded their money and said the monies that you paid is not supposed to be paid because this is not an existing organization. All that has not been done.
Okay. So how much did you pay throughout?
$589,550. That is rates, areas of rates from 2010 to 2020.
Okay. So you already paid this money?
We paid it. They provided us with account details. We transferred the money, and then they gave us acknowledgement. It's from our bank, EcoBank, to their own account with the accountant general, the treasury.
So now what next now? You already paid this. Now they said they revoked the lease and so on. It's illegal. It's misleading and so on. What next for you now?
For us, we are still holding that the property belongs to the organization because the court is the court that decided that.
Are you going back to court again?
If for instance, what Gambians need, for me now the narrative is not even global home and the state or the attorney general. That conversation is that the state versus the citizenry. We fought so hard to be where we are. Now, are we going to sit and watch our only hope, which is the judiciary, to allow a group of people to compromise the sanctity of that organization, of that institution, which is the judiciary? Is that what we're going to allow? Because if the courts decide what a responsible government or a responsible attorney general will do is go back to the court. Everything that they're saying in their press release, they go put it before the courts and let the courts look at it and be able to make informed decisions. And the courts have the right to set aside the judgment. Yes, the government has the right to take a property from an individual for the interest of the greater good of people, for a community interest, not an interest of a few people. This particular hotel, it's for the interest of an individual and the cabal around him. right? And this, take it to the bank. If they succeed in building this hotel, we will all sit and see that this hotel is owned by an individual who is really buttering their bread, because the president has told us. That was reinforced by the spokesperson. By then, this has not all, the issue was not amplified. The issue was not in the public domain. It was just between us and them, trying to handle things in a diplomatic way. But clearly, these people don't understand diplomatic language. So now, why don't you go to the court? Why would you, if a court say, Omar, this is your car, drive it and go. The IGP sits there under orders of other people, aside from the court, put police officers and Denton Bridge and say, under no account should you allow Omar to pass that bridge with his car, because so-and-so has interest in that car, or so-and-so claim to own that car, when there is no documentation to prove that that person owns that. Who has rights or powers over the courts, our judiciary? And that is what the conversation needs to be. That is what citizens need to ask themselves. Are we going to allow the executive to disobey the courts and not abide by court orders? Whatever the case may be, let's say we are wrong. They should seek redress from the court, not take the law into their own hands. And that is what my pain is, that is what my dismay is, and that is what my fear is, that we are really creeping into the old days of where we are from and what we fought for.
Your critics are saying that you don't have the capacity to, in the event that they give you the land overnight and said, develop this thing. Do you have the capacity? May
I tell the critics that this is not a plan. The hotel is being planned. A foundation stone is about to be laid. This was an existing hotel. Maybe if the person is just, or the people don't know, this was a hotel that was existing. People coming from Dakar, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Mauritania, coming to the Gambia to go to that facility to seek medical attention. It was operational. And this was supposed to be in phases. Phase 1 was that facility, and phase 2 was supposed to be driven. Even an allied health is part of the plans of the original plan that's supposed to be there. Even an assisted living, elderly living, is a component of this project that was supposed to be done. If there was not a break from 2010 to 2019, right, when this organization came back, 2018, this would have been all accomplished. This all would have come into fruition. So it's not a plan. It was something that was already cast in stone, that was just supposed to move in phases, bit by bit.
So now they said, suddenly you can, you want to fight, but are you opting for, like, if they provide another place for you where you will build your the global homes? Will you agree to that? If they said, okay, now for like, they said it has been cancelled A, B, and C, but we have this place for you.
See, the organization, it does not, there is sentimental attachment to the place, but at the end of the day, that's not the only place that this particular work can go on. Remember, even we were still going to court, but the mission was still coming and conducting work. We have done it in Quinala, in Kembuje, in Birkama, in Serakunda, in Kaur. It was still ongoing, right? So this is not the only place. If this government is reasonable and really engages us and adequately compensate us to be able to continue with our work, we'll be more than happy to do it. But honestly, the channel that they're using, the route, it is unacceptable, and we don't want to be an accomplice to disobeying the rule of law or not respecting the judiciary. And that's why we want what the court say that to be done.
So, do you have other people? Because the fight has always been Nenneh. You are the only one who is leading the fight. Where are the other people? Well,
I'm not the only one. Okay. Yes, they see me because I am the country director. I'm the liaison person since when this organization came back, resume their activities in this country. I have been, I have been appointed to be the country director. So by virtue of my position, I am the one who's interfacing and relating with these people. But of course, we have a lot of people because, again, there is nothing going on the ground. It's just a property and a structure that is really so dilapidated. And we are in the phase of trying to come back full force. We have a staff, we have an office, and I have staff that are working. So when the mission comes, these are the staff that take care of them. We have an advisory board on the ground. We have a board of governors. It's a full-fledged company, for God's sake. It's not a one-person organization, or it's not one Nenneh only running the show. But where we are right now, those people cannot fly into the country. and do nothing because there are other projects. They travel in other countries and mission work is going on. So that is what they're saying. But we have an office and we have staff that I pay every month.
So now looking at what happened recently, what impact will this have? Because this is an organization that has been helping people. Now something was given to them and now taken from them. What will its negative impact on people in the greater Banjul and especially those in the rural part of the country?
I mean, the impact is huge, Omar, and cannot be quantified. In the sense that all these years that this organization has not been able to fully take over and do what they needed to do, it's it's affecting Gambians in a sense, because we all know what our healthcare system is. Right now, just today, I saw a letter from the ministry saying that all, health workers, public health workers need to resume work or whatever, because they're on strike because they are not adequately compensated. So there is disrepute in that institution, which needs to be really remedied. If not, us citizens are going to suffer. Maybe you and I in a better position to be able to take care of ourselves in case of emergency. But how about the people that live in Kabada, where our sister lives? What are they going to do? You know, just today I was in a meeting. I have a Toma there during the campaign. They called me that my Toma's father passed away this afternoon. Why? Because he had an asthma attack. They live in Sibito in Kiangs, right? You know, and imagine Sibito, where they live to Quinella, the closest health facility is about 12 kilometers. Somebody who was not sick at all, because I've been talking to them. Just 2 days ago, I was talking to him. He sent me pictures of their ID, because I am trying to facilitate to get my Toma a birth certificate. Yeah. So that has happened. Just imagine how many of those. And do you know how I got the Toma? We were going campaigning in the hinterlands of Sibito or whatever. During the presidential campaign, okay, before the elections. And somebody had a baby on a donkey cart being transported to Quinella. In this 21st century, year 2022, 57 years of independence, people are having babies on the back of motorbicycle, on donkey carts, in the bush, at the backyard of their bathrooms. Still now, those things are happening. And you said, you know, you still cannot set your priorities right. So apparently, it's a matter of people just knowing what they want. It's about the citizens standing up and say, this is what is good for us, and this is what we want. You can have two things, they can both be good, but you have to prioritize. You have to prioritize and see which one is of utmost impact, immediate impact. You go for that one, and the other one can be long term. A hotel is good, absolutely good. A 5-star hotel is very, very good, because we don't have one in this country. But in our current situation, the dynamics of the country, you have so many hotels. COVID has impacted them. Why don't you turn 5 hotels, turn them into 5-star? And after the OIC, those are Gambians or Gambian partners, they can continue to run those hotels. It brings more development, it gives more impact to the country and Gambians and the workers than having to build a fully fledged 5-star hotel, you know, that. Do we even have that market in this Gambia? I mean, COVID has changed the world so much that, do we even have the tourists? Right now, the hotels that we have, they are struggling to get tourists or even clients to come to their hotels. Much more building another 5-star hotel. We are talking about 400 rooms hotel in this country. Let's be serious, come on, Omar. I am an advocate of development. I am an advocate of us advancing. I am an advocate of us being like our counterparts, our neighboring countries like the Senegal. We know the benefit that Senegal still continues to yield from hosting the OIC. And I want that to come to the Gambia. I want what Senegal has, I want us to have even better and more than that, if we should host it. And I say if we should host the OIC, or when we are able to host it. But let's be strategic. Let's not inconvenience our citizenry just in the name of development and OIC, to the extent that you hurt citizens that they will never be able to recover from where you took them and where you met them and where you took them from. That's not development. That's not helping the citizenry. Let's be strategic in our thinking, and that is what this administration lacked: the strategic thinking, the foresight, the visionary leadership, to be able to know that everything that they do, they have to see the citizenry in it, because everything happens in this country has to impact in one way or the other the citizenry, and it has to impact it positively. Otherwise, it's not value adding.
This is an issue health is everybody's business, but do you also feel lonely, considering what you are fighting for is not for only you or your family, but for the entire country? But when this thing was going on, almost all the key sectors were silent about it.
And yes, I mean, to say I've got a huge support from people across the board, right? Both in the Gambia and in the diaspora. And when I say diaspora, in all countries, Senegal, Guinea, you know, all these countries, they reached out from all aspects of life. But yes, more could be done, because this thing has gone from the organization that I work for, Global Home, to now what affects us. And what affects us is the highest institution, that is the rule of law, the judiciary, which is being held in disrepute by the Attorney General and his cabal, and of course the President by extension. That is now, this is the conversation, this is a fight for the citizenry, for us to get up and say no to what is going on, no matter what the court has ruled. Even if the court ruled wrongly, you have to go back to court to make sure they remedy, they correct that situation. But you cannot say the court has ruled and the ruling is not in my favor, or it's wrong, or I don't like it, and then I go do otherwise. And you are in contempt of the courts. And that is wrong. And if we allow this, my case is a litmus test. If this thing goes through, then boy, oh boy, nobody is safe in this country. Just 2 days ago, I saw the judge is summoning the IGP to come and, appear before him. Simply because there was a court order and the IGP refused to enforce the order. And that is a contempt of the courts. It is disrespecting the courts. And that's why, that is what all the judges need to do. And this is why the Bar Association need to get up and roll their sleeves and face the Attorney General and say, we cannot go to the courts and fight for our clients, get judgment, and then you stand between us and those judgment. Judgment needs to be enforced. Only a court can set aside a judgment. Only a court. That's what the Constitution said. And nobody has the powers to do otherwise. And that is the conversation. That is supposed to be the sound. That is supposed to be the advocacy.
Finally, what will be your final message before we end this interview?
Well, thank you very much. And I just want to continue to thank people. This is not the commencement of my fight for the rule of law, for women inclusion, for women empowerment, for young people. This is not the beginning, and this will not be the end. This has just amplified my voice. This has just emboldened me. This has just empowered me to know that there is a long way for us to go. To know that what we have done was just a beginning. You know, that was just a tip in the iceberg. We have not done anything. There is a lot to be desired for. There is a lot to do. And once we rest, which means we will not even crawl into the past, but we will just jump into the past, which is going to be a shortcut to getting in there. And I don't think anybody wants to get back to the 22 years that we've ruled, and we all unanimously agreed that it was not the life we wanted to live. People going to exile, having arbitrary arrests, disrespect of the rule of law, disappearances. That's the life we lived 22 years, we agreed. And that's why the TRRC was set up. We all thought these were foreigners coming in and committing those acts. But the TRRC has revealed that it is our own brothers and sisters that we're doing it. We're talking about reconciliation. We cannot reconcile in the absence of justice. And we cannot have justice if we are not honest with ourselves and be truthful and really hold that judiciary in the highest regard as the Constitution dictates. Because who is the judiciary? It's us. And if we allow us to be divided, then we have nowhere to lean on and we have nothing to hold on. But I just want to say thank you. The fight continues. The rule of law ought to be respected, because I stand for the truth. We said never again, and never again needs to mean never again. In action, we need to walk the talk. Right? That's what we need to do. Never again. I refuse to be intimidated. I refuse to be intimidated because I am the voice beyond representation.
Thank you so much. That's Nenneh Freda Gomez, the Country Director of Home of Medical Mission, Global Homes. So that's all what we have for you today. We will come with another exclusive interview. Thank you so much.